Why tipping feels like a scam now.
I
Interesting.
don't know how it is in other cities, but in New York City, tipping culture has gone out of control.
But not
It's every
doing
city.
on a drip coffee that you made at the beginning of the shift is tipping you $2.50 on a $4 coffee.
They add an 18% surcharge on top of the bill. Then it says tip, not included in the 18% we already taxed.
The craziest part to me is now you're expected to tip before you even get the service. And I'm like, what kind of racket is this? Is this a tipping option or is this extortion? Like part of the reason why I don't use those delivery apps like Uber Eats and DoorDash, not only is it because they add a little bit on top of every item you buy, so Uber Eats and DoorDash can skim a little bit off the top, but it's also because I started to see these new features where they're kind of like the more you tip, the faster your food is going to come to you. And I'm like, oh, so for me to actually get the service that you're supposed to be providing me, I have to tip the person before they even get here? And then when they get here, they might have forgot my ranch. They might have forgot my silverware. They might have forgot one of the things that I ordered. Why am I tipping the person before I even get the service? And I just think that that's crazy that that's now regular. Not only are you expected to walk to the counter to get your own stuff, but then they want you to tip before you even get the thing that you're supposed to be tipping for. Tipping used to be reserved for exceptional service. If you gave exceptional service, you might get a tip. You walk into a restaurant, the guy comes out, he knows a little bit about the menu, he can tell you about the popular items. You want to order something, he goes, no, you should order it this way because it's going to save you an extra $8 because we already have it included into this deal package. Those are the people that are supposed to be getting tips. But when you're expected to give a tip before you even get the service, that's more like extortion, ain't it?
This feeling. You just want a black coffee, but suddenly the app head spins around. You're staring at three options: 20%, 25%, or 30%.
And I remember when these options used to be 7%, 9%, 11%. Then they went up like 11, 13, 15. And then they went up to like, again, 20, 25, 30. It's crazy. And that happened all in my lifetime.
It feels like if you don't click the big button, you are a bad person. But here's the thing. That awkward moment isn't an accident. It was by design. And this video is not to tell you that tipping culture is getting out of control, because you already know that.
Right.
What you might not know is why the screen is designed to make you feel guilty. Because as it turns out, the person benefiting the most from that $2 tip isn't actually the barista.
Right.
It's the invisible partner in that transaction that you didn't even know was there.
Yeah, I would assume the invisible partner is the business that doesn't want to actually pay their barista or their servers a livable wage. And so they kind of put the blame on the customer, and then that pits the customer against the server, when really the server should be angry at the company, or the server should just not have accepted the job in the first place if they relied on tips to survive.
So today, we're going to expose the hidden financial incentives behind the tipping screens and break down the psychological tricks designed to make you pay more.
Okay. The tipping scam explained. 4 chapters, all right.
To really understand why this feels so broken, we have to look at where the whole system started.
Okay.
And it's actually a pretty wild story. Back in the mid-1800s, people in the US didn't tip. In fact, they hated it. Travelers would go to Europe and see rich people tipping their servants, and they thought it was gross. They felt that in America, one person shouldn't have to bribe another person just to get them to do their job.
Yeah, I kind of agree
But
with
then
that.
the
Base,
Civil
I
War
actually kind of
ended,
agree with that.
And a businessman named George Pullman had a problem. You see, Pullman ran these luxury sleeping trains that went all across the country. He needed thousands of workers to carry bags and serve drinks to his wealthy passengers.
I know where this
But
is going.
he didn't want to pay them. So he hired thousands of newly freed African-American men to work as porters.
Of course, a system that feels like a scam indeed started off to the closest thing you can perceive as a scam.
His offer to them was simple. He would pay them a tiny fraction of what a normal wage was, basically nothing. But then he told them they could keep 100% of whatever tips the rich passengers gave them. And this was a huge shift. For the first time in history, a massive company decided that they weren't responsible for paying their workers. The customer was.
Right.
Now, obviously, people didn't like that. And there was pushback. People argued that Pullman was just being cheap and shifting his business costs onto the public.
Good.
But eventually, Pullman won. In 1938,
Well, that's actually refreshing. You would have assumed, given the time and people's perspective on tipping, it would have been easier to blame the newly freed slaves that were just looking for an opportunity. And these people actually targeted their blame towards the right person, the person that was trying to exploit their employees.
Government made it official. They passed a law called the Fair Labor Standards Act. This law created the minimum wage that we all know today. But they included a special rule for tipped employees. This rule said that if a worker makes enough money in tips, the business owner doesn't have to pay them the full minimum wage.
I wonder who paid for that to happen. That exception to the rule is just conveniently there. I wonder who paid for that to be the case.
They can pay them a much lower amount, assuming the tips would make up the difference. And that much lower amount was $2.13 per hour. Here's a good example of this. Imagine the minimum wage is $7.25 per hour. And the law says the restaurant owner only has to pay $2.13. Where does the other $5.12 come from? That comes from you, the customer.
Yeah.
So next time when you leave a tip on the table, just know that first $5 of that tip isn't really a bonus for the waiter. It's actually just filling the hole that the owner legally left in their paycheck.
Right.
If you don't tip, the owner has to pay the difference. But if you do tip, the owner saves that money. So for almost 100 years, this was the deal. You go to a sit-down restaurant, you get good service, you pay the server's wage.
Exactly, and that's fine. I think most people are okay with that deal. I think if you go to a restaurant and you get good service, most people are okay with leaving a tip. But if I go to the restaurant and I have to walk up to the counter to get my food, I shouldn't be expected or even asked in the first place to leave a 15, 18, or 20% tip. That's crazy. And if I'm going to Starbucks to get a coffee, you should not be asking me to tip the barista. That's Starbucks' job.
It wasn't perfect, but we all understood the rules.
Right.
But recently, as payment become more digital, the rules changed. Because now the tip screen isn't just a sit-down restaurant. It's at the bakery, it's at the vape shop, it's at the self-checkout kiosk at the airport. And the reason for that shift has little to do with George Pullman. It has a lot to do with the software companies that run these payment terminals. If you look at the counter the next time you buy a coffee, you'll probably see a white square terminal. It's usually from a company like Toast, Square, or Clover.
Yeah.
These systems are actually great for small businesses. They make it really easy to track inventory and take credit cards.
Right.
But there's a specific detail in how these companies make money that explains why you're seeing the tip screen everywhere. Usually, these companies charge a processing fee. This is a small cut of every single transaction that goes through the machine.
Dang, these companies are rolling, bro. That's actually insane. I've seen almost everybody using these types of technologies. And if these companies are getting 2% of all of those people, like if you go to a small vendor nowadays, you don't even have to have cash because they're going to, at the very least, accept some type of Square or some type of tap pay or something like that. So if those companies are getting 2% to middleman every transaction, that's insane.
Actually around 2.5% to 3%.
Whoa.
Now, here's the important part. That 3% fee applies to the total transaction amount. That total includes the tax and the tip. So think about the incentives here. If you buy a sandwich for $10 and you don't tip, the software companies take their cut from the $10 bill. But if the screen can convince you to add a $5 tip, now the total is $15, and the software companies take their cut from the $15.
Right.
They literally make more money if you feel guilty enough to tip. So over the last few years,
they get paid, the software companies get paid off the total immediately. Software companies are in on it too. So they get paid off of the total amount. So if my thing comes out to $10 and I give them $15, they're taking 2% off of the $15 instead of the $10. I thought that the $5 was automatically just going to the server, but they have an incentive to try to get me to tip more because the software companies get more money if I tip. That's insane. That's crazy.
Behind the screen to be very good at making you tip.
Yeah.
They use a few tricks that come straight out of the behavioral psychology textbook.
Of course, they all do.
The first trick is the anchor. When the screen flips around, notice the options. They usually start at 20% or 22%. Sometimes the middle option is 25%. By putting 20% at the lowest number, your brain instantly tags that as the minimum. Even if you wanted to leave $1, which used to be totally normal for a coffee, You now have to actively search for a button that says custom amount, and clicking that button feels like extra work.
Yeah.
Plus,
I've even noticed that on like websites and stuff, it'll say log in or it'll say create new account, and it'll be in like bright blue, and then like the login is in very small letters underneath it. It's almost like they're trying to incentivize you to press the button that they want. And that's what happens when these psychologists started to get into marketing and into every aspect of our lives when it comes to business. They are trying to hack your brain in order to get you to do the thing they want you to do. And they just know that a lot of people lean on convenience and just trying to make things happen quickly. And if it's awkward for you to type in custom amount and then put in $2, that's way more steps than just pressing the 20% that's presented to you. So yeah, dang, that's crazy.
It feels a little embarrassing to type in $1 while the barista is standing right there. Yep. So most of us just take the path of least resistance. We click the 20%. The second trick is the spotlight. Have you ever noticed how big the buttons are and how bright the screen is?
Yep, that's exactly what I was talking about.
They are all intentional. There's a psychological concept called the Hawthorne effect. Basically, humans act differently when they know they're being watched. And the design of these screens maximizes that feeling. The barista is standing 2 feet away, there's usually a line of people behind you, and the screen is huge. It feels like a spotlight is on you, waiting to see if you're going to be generous or cheap. In that split second, your brain gets a little spike of anxiety. You don't want to look bad, you don't want to hold up the line, so you pay the extra $2 just to make the awkwardness go away.
Oh, so they're basically using psychology or psychological methods to prey on people's empathy. They're preying on the fact that we naturally have empathy for one another. They're preying, it's like the same thing when you go through the McDonald's drive-thru and they're like, do you want to round up to the nearest dollar to donate to the children's who are now orphans because their parents died in a car accident fund? And then at the end of the year, the companies just use all of the money that you've donated to that charity as a tax write-off. Yeah, so they're basically trying to hijack the human mind by learning our natural instincts and then using it against us. The only problem with humans is that we have one thing that they can't hijack, and that is our free will. We have our free will, and we can decide to just say no if we want to. The people who work at these places who are not paying them a livable wage can decide to say no, and the people who are tipping and they feel like they didn't get a reasonable service can always decide to say no. That's a part of the human brain that they can never hack.
It's not really a tip for service, it's more like a fee you pay to avoid social anxiety. And because this works so well, more and more businesses are turning that feature on.
Of course.
We've even started seeing it in places where there are no employees at all. There are self-checkout machines at stadiums and airports that now ask for a tip.
Yeah, if you tip at a self-checkout, you deserve to lose your money.
Think about that. You grabbed the water bottle, you scanned it, and you bagged it. You did all the work. So if you leave a 20% tip, who is that money going to?
Crazy.
In many cases, it's not going to a specific person, it's just going to the bottom line of the company. And the software providers takes their 3% cut off the top.
Of course.
It's a great business for them, but for us, it's creating a lot of tipping fatigue.
Wow. Interesting.
But there's another layer to this, and this is the part that explains why your local coffee shop or bakery relies on this system so much. It's not because the owners are evil, it's because they're trapped in a weird economic game with us, the customers. Let's say you own a burger spot. To keep the lights on and buy the ingredients, you need to make a certain amount of profit.
Okay.
But everything has gotten more expensive.
Okay.
Rent is up, beef is up, inflation is killing you. So you have two choices. Choice A, you can raise the price of the burger to $18.
Right.
This allows you to pay your staff a really good wage.
Yeah.
Say $25 an hour, without them needing tips. But here's the problem. If a customer walks by and sees an $18 burger on the menu, they freak out.
Yeah.
They say, that's too expensive, and they go somewhere else. Now here's choice B. You keep the burger price at $14. This looks much more affordable to the customer. But to make the math work, you can only pay your staff a lower hourly wage. So they rely on the tip screen to make up the difference.
Instead of paying more for the food, well, you'd probably say no because there's no empathy in the $18 burger. But if the burger's $14 and we go, well, can you please leave this nice, kind person some extra money, you feel more pressure to do it because there's a social human aspect to it.
Customer pays, they spend $14 for the burger plus a $4 tip. The total is $18. For customers, it's exactly the same amount of money coming out of their pocket. But psychologically, we as customers prefer choice B. We like seeing lower sticker price, even if we end up paying a lot higher price in the end. This creates a situation where the business owners is terrified to get rid of tipping. If they get rid of tips and just raise their prices to cover the cost of labor, they look like the most expensive place in town.
Yeah.
So
well, they should have to do that. They should be forced to do that so that people can actually see the price of what they're actually buying. Right now, they're kind of just lying about the price to manipulate you into thinking that the price is lower, but you're actually paying the same thing on the back end. So they're kind of just relying on manipulation and expecting their customers to pay the service for them. But if your business model relies on manipulation, and if you can't pay your employees, then maybe your business model just doesn't work and you got to go back to the drawing board.
Sticks with the tipping model. It effectively keeps the real price of the food hidden until the very last second of the transaction. It's a form of price illusion. And because it works, it's spreading to industries that never used to have it. I saw a post the other day where an online clothing store asked for a tip at checkout. This is purely wage subsidization. It's the company saying, hey, we want to keep our prices looking low, so can you please pay our warehouse team more money so we don't have to? It blurs the line between gratuity, which is supposed to be a thank you for good work, and a fee, which is just cost of doing business.
Right.
And when everything becomes a tip, nothing feels special anymore. We stop looking at the service we receive, we just start looking at the percentages.
And once tipping is everywhere, people don't even see it as a privilege anymore. Now you have people who see it more as an expectation, and they have a level of entitlement towards tipping now. And I guarantee you, I can't prove it, usually you follow the money, so I guarantee you when it comes to tipping and the social expectation of tipping, it was probably social engineering done by the people who benefited the most from the idea of people tipping. I could damn near guarantee it's probably just like breakfast is the most important meal of the day being funded by like bacon and milk companies and like things like diamonds are forever and the idea that a man should spend 3 months salary or 3 months of his income on a diamond for the wedding, that kind of being promoted by the diamond industry. I guarantee you it would be something similar to that.
So what are we supposed to do about this? We're in this weird spot where we don't want to stiff the workers because we know they rely on the money.
Right.
But we're also tired of being guilt-tripped by machines.
Right.
The solution is actually to change how we think about the two different types of transactions. We need to separate service from the counter. If you go to a sit-down restaurant and a waiter spends an hour taking care of you, refilling your drinks and making sure your meal is great, that is the old system. That is the Pullman system. We can hate the history of it, but right now that waiter is relying on your tip to survive. So in that scenario, tipping 20% is still the standard social contract.
20? Oh, is the standard social contract now 20? Because that means it's moved up 5% in just my lifetime alone. Maybe that's to compensate for inflation.
Different. If you're standing up and the transaction takes less than 30 seconds, the rules aren't the same. You shouldn't feel the same pressure to tip 20% on a muffin that you do on a 3-course dinner.
Right.
It is okay to hit the custom button. It is okay to leave $1. And honestly, it is okay to hit no tip at all.
Right.
If all they did was handing you a bottle of water. You aren't breaking a social contract, you're just refusing to pay a surcharge on a basic transaction. But if you do want to tip at the coffee shop, you want to make sure that money actually helps the person standing there. There is a better way to do it. Use cash. I know nobody carries cash anymore, but if you drop $1 in a physical jar, 2 things happen. First, there's no processing fee.
Right.
Tech company doesn't get a cut of that. Second, you bypass the whole awkward screen interaction.
Yes, and it just feels so good. Being in the service industry, it feels so good to count that money at the end of the night. Man, it's just something about it. My savings was booming. Because to see the physical money be able to stack up days at a time, it makes you not want to spend it as much when you have that physical money. I don't know what it is. Maybe it goes into the psychology of it, but it's something about it. When you got a wad of cash from having a bunch of ones, you're either a stripper or you're in the service industry. And when I had it, I was in the service industry, and it felt amazing to be at the end of the day to actually have something to show for what you worked for.
You don't have to stare at the
paychecks were slim though,
and you don't have to feel the anxiety. You just drop the money in and walk away. It's simpler. The final thing we can do is vote with our wallets. There are some restaurants that are trying to break the cycle. They're moving to a service included model. You will see a note on the menu that says, no tipping, we pay a living wage. Now, when you look at the prices at these places, they are going to look higher. The burger might be $18 or $19. Your instincts are going to say, wow, that is pricey. But you have to remind yourself that this price is honest. There's no hidden fees waiting for you at the end. If we support those businesses, more owners will be brave enough to make the switch. But until then, the next time you're at a coffee shop and the iPad flips around, take a breath. Don't let the bright screen panic you. Don't let the anchor trick you into thinking 20% is the minimum. Just look at the service you actually got and decide what feels fair. Thank you so much for making it this far into the video. If you like this type of content, please consider like and subscribe.
Yeah, man, people tripping with all this tipping. If I got it, I'll give it, but if I don't, I won't. That's just how it goes. Let me know in the comments below if this video is a W or L, and give me the HBO special. That's our brother out special. Hit the like and the subscribe button for more content. Till next time.